So far what we have done is that we have defined what an imaginary or complex number is. We have simplified it, we have added it, we have subtracted it, we have multiplied it. Now what this is called is division of complex numbers. One thing that we need to understand, again, what a complex number is, or what I is that I was defined to be the square root of -1. It is a radical. It is a radical in hidden form, but it is a radical all the same. So if I were to write 1 plus 2i, this is really 1 plus 2 square roots of -1. The only difference from that and what we did earlier is the fact that we have now hidden the square root of -1 into the letter I. But it is a radical. That means when we divide, and the word divide complex numbers, what we are really doing is rationalizing the denominator. We're actually rationalizing the denominator. So that when I think about the expression 1 plus 2i, he has a conjugate, which is what we did with the radicals in the previous section, and it's 1 minus 2i. The purpose being that when I take 1 plus 2i and multiply it times 1 minus 2i, I'd have 1 times 1 is 1, the inner is plus 2i, the outer is minus 2i, and the last is minus 4i squared. Plus 2i minus 2i, add to 0, I get 1 minus 4i squared, and we said that I squared is the same as -1. This is 1 minus 4 times -1, because I'm multiplying by I squared. This is 1 plus 4, or 5, and the radical is gone. And that's the purpose of the conjugate, is to eliminate the radical, or the I in the denominator. If again I'm looking at 1 minus the square root of 3i, his conjugate would be 1 plus the square root of 3i. And the same thing would happen, is that it would eliminate the radical. And if I had minus 2i, his conjugate would be plus 2i. And you say, well, why does that work that way? Well, the complex number would be 0 minus 2i. It would be 0 plus 2i. So the only thing that ever changes is the sign in the middle. So that's how you divide complex numbers. You multiply by the conjugate. So that as I look at this guy, if it's 4 plus I, I'm going to multiply by the conjugate, which is 4 minus I. That gives me 3 times 4 minus I over 4 times 4 is 16. Then I have a plus 4i. I have a minus 4i. And then I have a minus I squared. Now I leave that number sitting out in front, again, because if something reduces out, I want to make sure that's taken care of. Plus 4i and minus 4i add to 0. I get 3 times 4 minus I over 16 minus I squared. Well, we know that I squared is the same as -1. So this is 3 times 4 minus I divided by 16 minus a minus 1, which is 3 times 4 minus I over 17. 3 and 17 don't have anything in common. So I can multiply this through. By the way, this is a perfectly good answer for me. I don't care. Now your book will have some other ideas. You could multiply it through 12 minus 3I over 17. That's a good answer. Your book would then say, well, no, what you have to do is you write it in A plus BI form, so it's 12 over 17 minus 3 over 17 times I. This would be your book answer. But any of these three are fine. How you write it depends upon what you're going to do with it. Again, I need to multiply by the conjugate. So in this case, this would be 2 minus I. So this becomes 5I times 2 minus I over 2 times 2, well, that's 4. Inner is plus 2I, outer is minus 2I, and last is minus I squared. Plus 2I minus 2I adds to 0. So I'll have 5I times 2 minus I over 4 minus I squared, which we know is negative 1. So this I squared is negative 1. It's not a subtract 1 because it becomes a minus 1, so multiply 1. So now I make that a plus. This would be 5I times 2 minus I over 5. The 5's reduce out. So I have I times 2 minus I. I'm not done, unfortunately. This becomes 2I minus I squared. But I know that I squared is negative 1. So this is 2I plus 1. Or, as your book would have it, it would be 1 plus 2I. Either way. Just get it right. A lot of steps. A lot of detail. That's where this course is going, to be more and more steps and more detail. So in this case, the conjugate of minus 4I is plus 4I. So this becomes 4I times 5 plus I over negative 4 times positive 4 is negative 16 I squared. So we know that I squared is negative 1. This is a multiplied negative 1 because I'm taking 16 times I squared. So it's 4I times 5 plus I all over 16. Minus 16 times minus 1 is plus 16. 4 divides 16 4 times. So you're left with 5I plus I squared over 4, multiplying through by I, which is 5I plus I squared we know is minus 1 over 4 over 4. Why in the world did I write 2? Which is 5i minus 1 over 4. That is a perfectly good answer. However, that's not what your book would do. You'd be looking at minus 1 plus 5i over 4. That is still not your book's answer. They would take 4 and divide it into each of these pieces, so it would be minus 1/4 plus 5/4 I. That's your book.
But the top one is saying the exact same thing.
Yes. Yeah, because that's what the book would do. They write it in what they call A plus BI form. So this would be A plus BI form. I don't care.
So then, okay.
A lot of it's going to depend upon what you're going to do with it.
That's what I said, like on the test, you know, okay.
No.
So if we wrote it in that first one, that'd be.
Yeah, you'd be fine, yeah.